Okay, this is part 3, video part 3 on trigonometry. Now, finally, we're going to get a chance to actually see how we can use trig to solve problems, mathematical problems. Okay, first of all, let's get our trig ratios set up. Let's just write them down just so that we can practice, so it'll be easier for us to look at them and see what's going on. What are our 3 basic trig functions? They are sine, I'm going to abbreviate sin, cosine, I'm just going to abbreviate cos, and the tangent function. Okay, these are our 3 most basic trig functions. They are not our only ones, and I'll talk about that in another video, but they are 3 basic trig functions that that we typically start off with. Okay, and when we're thinking about sine, even though it's abbreviation, we think about O over H as far as the ratio set up. Cosine, we think about ca A over H, adjacent over hypotenuse. And the tangent function, the toa, we think about O over A, or the opposite over the adjacent side. Okay, all of that was mentioned in the previous videos, so I'm going to talk as if you watched those videos, and we're going to just take it from here. Okay, we are being asked to, as we can see above, find the length of the missing side x. So we see that we have a missing side length or a height of x. We don't know what it is, so we call it x. And the base of this triangle is 12 inches long. And we have a reference angle of 60 degrees. So I'm going to put right here, reference angle. Reference. I'm just going to write the word reference to save some space. Reference, I just put the angle symbol. This is our reference angle. Now, remember, we utilize trigonometry when we have an angle measure and when we have a side length. Or if we have 2 side lengths, then we can find the angle measure. But we're not going to focus on that aspect. We're going to focus on the fact that we have an angle and we have a side length. And we can't use the Pythagorean theorem because we don't have 2 unknown sides. We don't have 2 sides that are known to us. Okay, with that said, step 1 will obviously be to utilize our reference angle to figure out what sides are what as far as adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. I like to fill in my hypotenuse first because it's the longest side and it's the easiest one to identify. Remember, the hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle. Here's our reference angle. We utilize this to find out what side is considered the opposite and the adjacent. So across from the 60-degree angle is this side that says 12 inches. So across from it or opposite from it, we will call this side our opposite side. We've identified the hypotenuse, the opposite side. The side that's connected to the reference angle, that's not the hypotenuse, is called our adjacent side. Because it's right next to it, it helps form that reference angle. Okay, now that we have identified our 3 different sides of our triangle as far as what they take on or what side meaning they're taking on in this right triangle, we can then begin to start thinking about which of these trigonometric functions out of all 3 of them are we going to use. Well, this is asking us to find the missing side length, x, so of course it's going to play a part. So the adjacent side, we're going to need that side. And the side that we do have, which is 12 inches, we're going to have to utilize that. We don't have the hypotenuse. There's no number there, of course. So we're going to use the opposite side and the adjacent side in our problem. And when we refer to our 3 trig functions, the only one that contains opposite and adjacent is the tangent function. So we're going to utilize the tangent function. So the way we do this is simply to write out tangent. Once we identified the function, we're going to write the degree measure in the parentheses. 60 degrees in this case. The tangent function is equal to what over what? Opposite side, which is 12. Let me switch my color up. It will be the ratio of 12 over what? We don't know the missing side, which is x. I know it doesn't look like it yet, but this is about to turn into a very easy problem to solve. Because tangent 60 degrees is actually going to give us a ratio. It's going to tell us, hey, if this angle is 60 degrees, by utilizing the calculator in a second, we're going to be able to type this in the calculator. It's going to tell us, hey, the calculator is going to say if this angle is 60 degrees and one side is 12, then the other side have to be exactly blah, 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 so it will equal this particular ratio. Okay, so let's actually go to that calculator and figure out what in the world is tangent 60 degrees going to compute out to be. I believe the calculator is here. I used web2calculator.com. It's pretty cool. Okay, make sure that anytime you're utilizing this calculator, that right here is set up on degrees, because that's what you have. Okay, we're going to type in tangent. You see how it opens up that parentheses? It's asking you to put in the degree measure you're looking for, that you're trying to figure out. I'm going to close it up, and I'm going to press equal. It converts to 1.732 blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to truncate this to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so I'm just going to say 1.73. That 2 wouldn't round the 3 up, so I'm just going to call it 1.73. So I'm going to close this back down. And so tangent 60 degrees. This another way of saying tangent 60 degrees is the same thing as saying 1.73. All right, so if these two are the same, then I'm going to just convert tangent 60 degrees to what that calculator told me. Nobody knows these trig functions in their head. You have to utilize a calculator, and I think that's the part where you all have probably been trying to wait for, like, what in the world do I do with this? Well, it converts to a number, and in this case, it's 1.73. 1.73 is equal to 12 over x. All right. Well, simply 1.73, we can write that as 1.73 over what? 1. Since this side is set up as a ratio, we could set this side as up as a ratio. Just put 1.73 over 1 over 1. So now we have ourselves, which may look very familiar to you, a proportion. Exactly. A proportion. All we have to do now is just solve this proportion equation. Okay? We're going to cross multiply. 1.73 times x is 1.73x. It should be equal to the cross multiplication of these two, which is 12. Next step, we're going to isolate x so we can figure out what in the world height x have to be. So we're going to divide this side. We utilize a different color. I'm going to use green by 1.73, which means that we need to divide this side also by 173 to maintain the value of this equation. Okay? All right, so we've isolated x is equal to whatever the quotient of 12 divided by 1.73 is. I'm just going to go to this calculator to speed things up. Okay, 12 divided by, I'm going to use their division symbol. Oh, okay, it was the same thing. 1.73. And then I'm going to press equal. 6.936, which is about 6.94, because that 6 was round that 3 up. All right, 6.94. So I'm going to write 6.94. It's almost 7. So I'm going to say, or we're going to say that this height has to be 6.94, and our units are inches tall if this angle is going to turn out to be a 60-degree angle. That's the height of this leg has to be if this side, if the base is going to be 12 and a 60-degree angle is formed here. So that's all to it. Just reflecting back on what we did, we actually set up our trig equation. We said that tangent 60 degrees, we knew we were dealing with tangent because we were dealing with the opposite side. We were trying to find the adjacent side. So we knew we had to utilize the trig, the tangent function. Okay, once we identified where we're going to be using tangent, I just simply wrote out an equation. Tangent 60 degrees is equal to what ratio set up? 12 over x, opposite over the adjacent side. Tangent 60 degrees turn into a nice pretty number of 1.73 when you utilize a calculator that's set up on degrees. Make sure it's on degrees, otherwise it'll probably say something like 0.32 or something crazy. So 1.73 is equal to 12 over x, and we solve from there. I'm pretty sure if you're looking at a trig video, you know how to go from here. So once again, just make sure you understand that nobody walks around knowing what if a ratio, what if one side is one length, what the other side would have to be in order to form a certain degree. That's why we have that calculator, and it has the trig functions, all the trig functions in there, and conversions to numbers that you would need. As long as you type it in correctly, you will end up knowing what the ratio of the two sides will have to be to give you a certain angle measure. All right, once again, that's it. I tried to be succinct, and I think I'm rambling. I'm going to stop this one. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.